Hi, I'm Alex and I'm here with Sanna Anderson from the nutrition team at the clinic. And today we're going to be talking about people which are on diets for wheat-free, dairy-free and that kind of thing. And I know that for a lot of people this can be quite a big thing to change what they're eating, to kind of find replacements for the things they're kind of used to having in their diet. So we're here in my kitchen at home, and Sanna's brought various examples. We rated my colours a little bit as well. But maybe a good starting point, Sanna, would be why do we encourage people to be wheat and dairy free in the first place?
Okay, yeah, so for most of our patients who come through to the nutrition side on the clinic, when we start looking at diet side of the treatment, one of the first things we do tend to address is talk about reducing the amount of wheat and dairy in their diets. And one of the reasons is simply because those two food groups have just become a little bit overemphasized in modern diets, I feel. And both dairy, particularly casein in it, which is one of the proteins in dairy, and in wheat, the gluten, which is again another type of protein, they are quite allergenic anyway, and they're also quite hard work on your digestive system. And most people with chronic fatigue syndrome, ME, fibromyalgia, there is usually some level of strain on the digestive system. With some people it's more, others it's a little bit less. But in general, what we want to do is just give your body a bit of a break, and at the same time, hopefully, introduce some variety into the diet. Yeah, because obviously it's kind of interesting that especially in this country, those foods are just so common. I mean, almost, from breakfast, lunch and dinner, you've pretty much got wheat and dairy in most things that people would eat. And that's obviously not true in all cultures. No, but I mean, I think you can see sometimes you look at diet diaries and you can see a couple of pieces of toast for breakfast, sandwich for lunch and pasta for dinner. And again, I don't want to necessarily sort of join on the anti-wheat brigade as such, but I think the question you've got to ask yourself at that point is, well, what else aren't you having if you're having all that wheat? And ultimately, modern wheat, especially refined wheat, is very nutrient poor, but it's very, very high in gluten, which again is really hard work on your digestive system and can really sort of cause irritation, inflammation, far wider reaching problems than just sort of localized discomfort.
Yeah, I'm always a little bit concerned about coming across like a food Nazi. It's like that people can't have, I guess, joy from food. Because that's probably part of the purpose of what we're looking to do today with the videos, to show people that actually they can be on one level as a restrictive diet, but actually there's really good replacements for a lot of the things that they may have, and actually some of the things I think we're going to recommend, in my opinion, taste better than what people are used to having. And it's often a bit of a psychological shift, people being willing to try different things. Yeah, I think absolutely. And if you've been going around the supermarket and picking out the same things for a good few years, then it's just that initial shift. And similarly at home, if you've been used to cooking one way, then kind of just finding the alternatives can be a little bit more of a challenge to begin with. But I think, hopefully we can show you some ideas here. And sometimes it's not even worth necessarily replacing things sort of one-on-one. You can actually create something a little bit new, but for most things, if you want to, you can just do a straightforward replacement. So what are some of the things that we've got here? So we've got, we're looking primarily today at the wheat-free and the dairy-free side. So maybe on the wheat-free side, what are some of the little choice things you've got? The choice things I've got here. Well, wheat-free, I think the biggest thing that people are worried about possibly is losing pasta, because it is an easy way to cook a dinner. You have some pasta and you make a little simple maybe tomato-based sauce. For that, definitely there's huge variety nowadays in wheat-free pastas. I mean, we've got some of yours here. They are sort of nice spiral-shaped ones. I've got some of my own that I use, and you can see it kind of looks fairly similar to what pasta would normally look like. Hopefully you can see it a little bit. What are these ones made of? This one, my little penne shapes are made of corn and rice, so they do have that kind of quite a yellowy colour, probably a little bit more yellow than your normal pasta would be. I'd say this one you might not even notice if you boiled it. I mean, this is rice and millet. So again, they're pretty okay and natural nowadays. There are so many different brands out there, and also definitely what I've found a few years back,
the sort of wheat-free, gluten-free pastas, you boiled them and they just turned into mush.
That's
but that doesn't really happen, thankfully, anymore. So
I mean, the secret is you have to not overcook it. I mean, if you slightly undercook it, normally it turns out pretty well.
Yeah. So al dente, even with this one. Okay. But they're great, and you've got spaghetti-shaped stuff as well. So usually it's in your free from or special diets aisle in the supermarket. Or if you're shopping online, Goodness Direct is quite a good one as well to
and
go
that's
to.
goodnessdirect.co.uk,
yeah,
I think, yeah.
That's the one. I think even if you just put Goodness Direct in Google, you'll find it.
And I know some of these companies, obviously we're not here to endorse the companies, some of these companies I know also, if you place bulk orders, I remember Nikki and I, when we used to live together many years ago, we used to order vast amounts. I used to work in the flat at the time. It was a massive delivery of all this stuff from, I think, Sumo or one of the companies it was. Yeah. And we'd get something like 30% off by doing that. So it's also worth, if you're going to be on these diets for a while, or maybe even if you live near someone else who's on a similar kind of thing, maybe try and arrange something together.
Absolutely, yeah. You can team up. I mean, I used to do that locally with a couple of friends of mine, definitely, and then you sort of almost get wholesale pricing or something along those lines.
Okay, so that's on the
that's
wheat
your wheat-free pasta. Actually, the other thing I was going to say about wheat-free is, again, rather than kind of finding the substitute, which is, I suppose you could argue that rice and millet pasta is not, it's not the real pasta, and in some ways it has been kind of just replaced with something that then serves the purpose of making it gluten-free. But then there are other products out there that have always been wheat-free and actually gluten-free as well. So things like proper sort of traditional Japanese soba noodles are made of buckwheat, and buckwheat has nothing to do with wheat. It's a completely different grain, and it's completely gluten-free as well. So, not only does it not contain wheat, but it's also gluten-free. It's high in protein, so it's really great. It's very, very hypoallergenic. So, from that point of view, it's really, really cool as well. So, you could use this instead of gluten-free spaghetti, for example, and actually probably nutrient profile-wise, these, I would argue, would be a little bit nicer as well.
And I think very often these things as well, they're just a lot less processed.
Yeah.
And if you're buying wheat which is kind of very, very kind of just processed with that whole thing, then there's less nutrients in it anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, so that being the wheat-free side, we also had some quinoa as well, didn't we?
Yes, we've got some quinoa as well.
Just pulled from my cupboard.
Yes. Quinoa, which again is one of these sort of grains. Actually, maybe I'll show you. I've got some of mine, if you can sort of see. It's a very small little grain, a little bit like couscous, I'd say, but probably there's a bit more bite to it.
Yeah.
And again, it's high in protein, which is great. It's very hypoallergenic, naturally gluten-free. You can use it, I kind of tend to use it a bit like couscous, so you could make a little sort of one-pot salad with it, put some nice vegetables in there, and maybe another protein source, whatever you like, maybe some prawns, for example, or a little bit of feta cheese. Makes it really nice. Or you can get quinoa flakes and make more sort of quinoa-based porridge.
Yeah, like breakfast kind of thing. I mean, and it's worth saying that for people which are cooking these things for the first time, I know it may seem a bit overwhelming. If I can cook this stuff, anyone can cook this stuff.
No, honestly, this stuff is all very easy, and it will tell you on the packet for how long to boil it for. I mean, I boil it for, well, it says here 10 to 15 minutes. And that's very easy. You'll see it's actually funny little sort of pearly grain, and when it's cooked, there's little, almost like a sort of coil that comes out of it. It's really weird to describe, but you'll know when you've cooked it, and you can see it. It sort of slightly expands. And it's a really, again, another way, use it instead of rice.
I was going to say, and really you cook it in exactly the same way. I mean, you measure it's kind of a certain proportion of rice to water or quinoa to water. It's a very simple process.
Oh, you don't have to bother. I'll just cover it properly in water, and then I'll just drain it at the end. See? Don't make your life more complicated.
There's me measuring it out for all these years. Okay, so that on the wheat-free side. How about for those on the dairy-free side?